Hey, welcome to another episode of Greece 2024.
Yeah,
Yeah, so today we went to the Palace of Knossos,
right.
home of the Minoan civilization, and it was an amazing sight.
Yeah, no, it was a super cool site. And it was one of those things where I was like, well, I don't know how we tie it into kind of biblical, ancient biblical Christianity,
Yeah,
and it was a tricky thing, but we kind of started talking. Well, one thing we'll start off here is that all these sites we've gone to, me and you have said, we look at the ruins and it just kills you because you look at it and you say, man, I wish I could see what this temple looked like in its
yeah,
in its original form. The brand new marble, the cut stone, all the details.
yeah.
You kind of want that image, and yeah, and then we go to this Minoan site and we kind of have that. So it kind of brought up an interesting conversation that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so there's this paradox at the site of Knossos, and who was it? Sir Arthur Evans
Sir Arthur Evans, that's right.
excavated it early, 20th century, around 1900, I think.
Yeah, early 1900s.
Okay,
Right.
okay, early 1900s. And so one of the things that is unique about the site of Knossos is Arthur Evans did a lot of reconstruction. So he would see these remains and he would say, this looks like the throne's room, right?
Yeah.
This looks like the queen's bathroom,
Right.
because it had a bathtub in it or something, and a little bit of wall painting on. And so he would reconstruct these things and he
Yeah.
would say, this is the grand stairwell. This is this.
Yeah.
And then he would erect these big pillars and they would paint them red because there was evidence that they would have been red at the time. And so you really get this unique glimpse into what it would have looked like at the time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and we took some video that you'll see, and you'll see
Yeah, we'll
kind
throw
of the
some up
bright
there.
colors, the frescoes. But then as we were kind of looking around the site, we noticed that all of the little placards that kind of give you an information about what you're looking at, there was sort of this subtle stab at Sir Arthur Evans saying, that we really don't know what this fresco looked like, but he completed it anyway.
Yeah.
And there's arguments about whether this figure was male or female or a dog, or you know what I mean. It's just the most kind of ridiculous
It could
stuff.
have been the throne room. It could have been a bathroom.
Right.
It could have been a storage closet. But
Yeah, so everything we read sort of put a lot of stuff in quotes.
a lot of the scare quotes
yeah,
going
yeah,
on.
yeah. This is the grand staircase, according to Arthur Evans, and it brought up a fun conversation, I thought, about
Yeah.
kind of, it's what we wanted. All these ancient sites, this is what we wanted. We're like,
Mhm.
oh, finally a site that kind of took some liberties and said, look, may not get this exactly right, but here's what we think it looked like,
Yeah.
and the pushback on that, at least in, I would say, the archaeological community, is
Yeah.
that well, they disagree on this and this may or may not be right. But it brought up an interesting conversation uh, about knowledge, how to move forward, and can you move forward without complete knowledge?
Yeah. So the archaeological community would be notorious for moving very slow.
Right.
We've been to sites
Oh
where
yeah,
they're with a little, a huge site, and this
they're
person
they're
is
having
sitting there,
toothbrush. Yeah,
yeah, dusting off one rock
right.
and putting it aside and dusting off the next one. And look, that's totally understandable. Archaeology has taught us, if you listen to our podcast, I'm a big fan of archaeology. So
Right.
It's taught us a lot, but archaeologists almost have this ideal notion of this may take us the next 100 years, right?
Right.
But if we do it right, we can uncover every little potsherd, every little flake, every little
Yeah.
seed, and we can know as much as we can about this
Yeah,
site.
the truth will be revealed.
And you were even saying you saw something about what Göbekli
Tepe,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
a super ancient site, and that there's actually like dozens of these mounds that they think they've done sonar and they think that there's these kind of ancient cities or temples underneath it, and they started to excavate one, and then the archaeologists said, nope, just cover it back up. And so they literally mounded
Yeah.
dirt back on top of it to preserve it for future archaeologists that had better tools, better
Yeah.
technology, and they could more accurately reproduce. But it brought up this whole conversation. It's like, well, do you just bail on it? Do you just cover it up and say we're waiting for the future? Because the future, I mean, it's the future. There's always going to be better technology that's going to allow us to get a more complete
Yeah.
picture. But does that mean we just don't move forward? We just literally bury it
And of
for
course,
today?
yeah, and of course, the rub with archaeology, with the site we saw today, with what Arthur Evans did, is there's a lot of archaeologists that would say, well, he ruined the site. We can't really know
Right.
anything more
Yeah.
because he's done all these recreations. He's built platforms and pillars over stuff we would have liked to dug around in.
Right.
And, you know, so there would be a school in archaeology that would just say, well, he's completely ruined the site. We can't know anything about this anymore.
Right.
And yet, it was by far the busiest site we've been in, right?
Yeah, it was packed.
There were crowds everywhere.
Yeah.
And we're off season. We're not even like the middle tourist season here. So
Right.
to step back and conceptualize it, it brings up this conversation that we had walking through the site of what is the payoff of, if the archaeologists represent complete knowledge, we can gain every bit of knowledge we can from this site, but it's going to take us the next 50 to 100 years to excavate, versus what Arthur Evans has done at the site of Knossos, which is, look, I'm taking my best guess, but I want to create something that people can walk through and really experience what
Right.
this civilization would have been like.
Yeah, I want to kind of generate some energy about archaeology in general.
Yeah.
And if you show people a pile of rocks, that's just not too inspirational for most of us.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's try to create something. And, you know, it was funny because we were kind of of two minds. I see both sides of it, but it kind of brought in this philosophical, psychological conversation you had that we had about moving forward without having complete knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what is it about? Well, I think anxiety in general is the inability to move forward because we're afraid we don't have all the information to make the best decision. And if you do that to the nth degree, you never get anywhere.
Right. You become like an archaeological excavation.
Yeah.
Right. That is
Yeah.
dug for 20 years, that has now identified this pile of rocks as partial wall.
Yeah.
And that's your 20-year. But, you know, you've picked every piece of information you can out of that. And so, yeah, it represents almost this idea of we cannot move forward until we have complete picture of where we're going, of
Right.
complete knowledge is kind of how we said it.
Yeah.
You know?
And it kind of leaned into this idea of kids today, this sort of epidemic of anxiety, epidemic of depression, and you know, just that kind of being gripped by neuroses. I think that we kind of see in kids today, and I think it's because we're constantly putting pressure on them. Not there hadn't been pressure in the past, but I think there's this real pressure today of where you're going to school, what are you going to do with your major, what are you going to do with your life, what kind of career path are you going to have, and kids feel like they have to have all these answers and have to have a solid 5-10 year plan to move forward. And if they don't, then man, I'm just going to end up at McDonald's and I'm just going to, you know, be working a drive-through. And what am I going to do with my life? And it creates this anxiety. And it's funny because it really is a fundamental thing that we all go through in moving forward. How do I move forward? You know, we all wish we had more information. We all wish we had a clearer picture of what the future would look like if I took this path over this path. But you know what? That's just life, and you can't move forward with with a complete picture. And I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting idea of
And so what it happens is it creates paralysis, right?
Right.
That if I can't move forward until I have everything figured out over the next 5 years, what it creates is paralysis.
Yeah.
And you won't go anywhere. And we saw that contrasted with, you could say, symbolically of what Sir Arthur Evans did, which is he came in and he said, this is what I think all this is. I'm going to recreate it. I'm going to recreate some of the frescoes, and I'm going to reconstruct some things. And it's this beautiful site. And you say, well, did he get it all right? Well, probably not. But look what he's done. Look at the site that has emerged out of what he's done. And that kind of represents the other side is, no, I don't know what the future holds, but I'm going to move forward. Yeah. I have enough information to move forward.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the tension that we as human beings actually probably run into is I want complete knowledge before I'll move forward. well, that just leaves you in a state of paralysis versus I have enough to move forward. Look, I'm going to get some things wrong,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm going to take a chance that I'll figure out some stuff down the road when I need it,
Yeah.
but I'm going to move forward.
Yeah.
So just, yeah, that interesting picture between the different takes of archaeology. And we've seen both sides now on this trip.
Yeah. But you're right. It was funny. It was just the crowds of people are a testimony to what he did was somewhat inspirational because it was a neat sight. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was really cool, some of the stuff you're seeing. But then he kind of took criticism on the back end by the experts, you know, by the
Sure.
people who were the purists, I guess, that were saying he jumped the gun, you know, and kind of messed things up.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, man, it was a full house, man.
Yeah. Packed house. It was a wonderful sight. We had a good morning. And yeah, we've seen so many sites here. And you think, man, surely one of them can be sacrificed for rebuilding it, recreating it,
Yeah.
so people could get a good sense of what it looks like to walk through this site. You know, we were at Olympia, a day or two ago, and the Temple of Zeus, one pillar's emerged. And we always say, why can't they put that pillar up right there that's
Right.
sitting there? You know, why
Yeah.
can't they put it up? And I'm sure there's some reason why they don't want to disturb it. They've got more studying to do. But again, it's that tension between moving forward and paralysis, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to have all knowledge before we disturb this versus we have enough to create something really wonderful where people can truly come and appreciate what this culture was like.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, something like that.
Yeah. Well, and to go along with our snake theme, because we've been talking about snakes, and our last short, we kind of talked about it with the snake and the staff.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of thought about the whole Garden of Eden and the invitation of the snake to complete knowledge. You know,
Yeah.
the temptation of Adam and Eve was, hey, look, I can give you complete knowledge.
Yeah. What is it that the snake offered?
Right.
The serpent offered complete knowledge. You will have the knowledge of God. You
Right.
will become like God.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
But with that comes death. With that comes, so, you know, you could say paralysis. You could say you can't move forward because it's too much information. And it's almost like, hey, you want to live in paradise? Don't worry about having all the knowledge.
Yeah.
Just live with what God has given you and move forward. Tend your garden, take care of your family, do what you were created to do, and
Mm-hmm.
quit worrying about having all the information to make the perfect decision moving forward, because the imperfect decision, that's what life is all about, and discovering where that takes you.
Yeah. Yeah. We took all that from the site of Knossos today. So
Yeah, that's right.
hope you enjoyed it.
Yep, and we were worried about what we were going to come up with, you know. There you go. And it ends up getting this philosophical.
Right. Yeah.
All right, we'll see y'all next time.